Don't let guilt get the better of you. In two ways, don't let guilt get the better of you. Don't let it debilitate you and then you spiral into shame. And don't let guilt tricks you. Don't let guilt make you think that because you feel bad about something that you've done, that you've changed, that you've transformed. It's probably not the case. If action doesn't proceed, continuous, consistent action doesn't proceed, the guilt, the bad feeling that you have, the uncomfortable discomfort that you have in you, the sensation that goes through your body saying, I think I've hurt that person and I don't feel good about that. I feel icky. My chest is tight. My heart rate is racing. My stomach has dropped to the floor. That feeling, understanding where that comes from, feeling those feelings of guilt and shame in a safe, healthy way, moving them through your body. You've got to move, right? We've got to move the sensation and the feeling. That contributes to the trauma loop closing. I'm not talking about intense, acute, chronic trauma, although that's definitely part of it and it definitely applies. I'm speaking to just that sensation. Guilt's such an interesting thing. I've been sitting with this. I've been sitting with guilt, right? Not because I'm feeling guilty for anything specifically at the moment, but I was a couple of days ago. I had it wasn't a confrontation. It was just me being in my protective, defensive self and barking at someone. And I was aggressive, I was impatient, I was agitated, I was irritated. I was coming from a place of protection and defensiveness. And then immediately I felt guilt about that. And I thought to myself, I need to repair the situation with this man, with this friend of mine. And so I did immediately. And that repair, that action to take ownership of where my posturing, where my attitude was actually coming from, what's underneath, was where change happens. And so then guilt serves a purpose, right? Instead of me spiraling into shame and thinking about it and just constantly feeling bad and terrible and horrible and uncomfortable and feeling sad and sympathy and empathy and compassion, all this just concoction of healthy and unhealthy states of being, I took action. And I'm not saying that to impress you and say that I'm great, not at all. Because in the past, for the vast majority of my life, I haven't. I've just wallowed in the guilt and the shame. And then in order to shift the shame, because I don't want to feel it anymore, and instead of actually addressing it and being with it, guess what I've done? I've inserted pleasure into my life. Sex, alcohol, food, numbing, TV, adventure, adrenaline, whatever, you name it. Prostitution, all of it. Anything exhilarating to pull me away from the shame, but the shame's still there, it's still underneath. And when the intensity of the pleasure subsides, what happens? I'm left with more shame and guilt. And so guilt doesn't do anything in that instance because I'm not taking action on it. I'm not sitting with it, I'm not being with it. I'm not being mature with it. I was laughing with Christina earlier, my wife. I was telling her something. I was sharing some piece of wisdom with her. I can't remember what it was. And I said, yeah, I'm like a baby sage, right? Like I'm not a sage yet. I'm actually really far from it. I'm like a little baby sage, like I'm an immature sage. So I had a moment of clarity. I had a moment of wisdom. But, in jest and saying that moment of wisdom and that moment of clarity, it came from actually being free in my body, not being deeply tight, not being tight in unfelt emotions, unfelt states, such as guilt, such as sadness, anger, agitation. And so we can access those moments more and more frequently where they become a continuous stream of being. When we start working with our big stuff, guilt, pain, suffering, sadness, anger, whatever it may be, right? The rage, the thing that was done to you, or the experience that you had when you were 6, or the bullying that you experienced, or the neglect from your mother, or whatever it was, that keeps amplifying the present moment. And then when we behave in a way that isn't conducive to a healthy dynamic and relationship, we feel guilt, but we don't act on it. It's time to act on our guilt to repair the pain within us and the disconnection we often create from a place of protection in our relationships. Much love to you.